Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Geektopia. I'm your host, Barry, and today's podcast is going to be just me really talking about a few recent DC announcements. This is really kind of a companion piece, if you will, to a podcast that I recorded about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, which was also pertaining to DC. Now, it was very recently announced that the Suicide Squad has finished. The movie is complete. The movie is obviously scheduled for an August release date. And obviously, I'm very much looking forward to this film. And James Gunn said that basically, it's his film. He said there was no studio interference. Warner Brothers just let him do his thing. And that's what I like to hear. Because at the end of the day, I realise that no director is bigger than the film studio itself. The film studio, they're the ones that are actually investing their money in these movies. But at the same time, you've got to have faith in the person that's making this movie. And very often the case is when there's a lot of studio interference involved, very often what you get is a tarnished product. And I really felt 2016 Suicide Squad, which was, pretty much a mess of a film. I think that film was ultimately hindered by a lot of reshoots, rewrites, and just overall, the studio butchered that movie. Now, with James Gunn, he's actually said that it's all gone according to plan. There's not been any big problems. There's been no real issues. He's basically, the studio weren't pulling all the strings. James Gunn was faith has been put in him to lead this film, to make this movie. Obviously an August release date, as I said. Looking forward to it. I've been reading the Suicide Squad comics for years now. I'm expecting this to be a good, fun movie, very much kind of a throwback to the action flicks of yesteryear, the 70s and 80s in particular. And I'm really hoping that James Gunn can do for Suicide Squad what he's done for Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm really hoping he does the comics a lot of justice here. I'll be honest, I'm not actually sure if it's been officially confirmed as to whether this film has an R rating or not. While I don't feel like it's an absolute necessity, I do feel like this film could actually benefit from an R rating. The Suicide Squad comics are violent, they are gritty when they need to be. So I'm just hoping. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we do actually get an R rating. Now, another announcement recently is, an image that was online just a few days ago, and it basically burnt the internet up. And that is, they've actually revealed the Joker, Jared Leto's Joker, in the Snyder Cut for Justice League, which is obviously being released on March the 18th on HBO Max. Again, seriously excited for this movie. This should really be the film that we got way back in 2017. Now, it was confirmed a while back that Jared Leto's Joker was actually appearing in the Snyder Cut, that he was actually filming. I believe it's just one scene. I might be wrong, but I feel like there's only one scene. Okay, now, in the greater picture, I wasn't expecting Joker in this film anyway. I didn't really take to Jared Leto's Joker, if I'm honest. Admittedly, he didn't really have that much in the way of screen time in the 2016 Suicide Squad, but at the same time, it was just kind of, he didn't really leave a lasting impression to me. It was just, Jared Leto's Joker, to me, the image was forced. All of the tattoos and that, I kind of expected a Joker fanboy to have, not the Joker himself. The image just felt too loud and too forced. And Jared Leto, while I feel he gave it his all, I feel like Jared Leto genuinely really did try. It's like he was trying too hard. I felt like I was watching an actor that was really kind of struggling to find his identity in that role. It's almost like he was trying to outdo Heath Ledger. That's not to compare, because we have two very different iterations of the Joker. I don't think you really can compare. Like Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger's Joker, they're both great Jokers for different reasons. I think they both fit They both perfectly fit the format of the film that they're in. Now, I really didn't like Jared Leto's Joker. Admittedly, I might have wanted to see a little more of him because I know that many of his scenes were actually cut from the final product, again down to studio interference, etc. So I wasn't overly excited, I'll admit, at the prospect of having Jared Leto's Joker back in the Suicide Squad. It's one of them kind of things, take it or leave it. I wasn't actually expecting for him to be detrimental to the plot anyway. But they released an image sporting a new look. The tattoos are gone. He's got long hair now. When I first looked at him, I kind of thought Eric Draven, the Crow, the '94 film. He's kind of got that Crow look. And from what I know, it's kind of a dream. I think it's a flashback / dream sequence. I actually thought we was going to get a scene of the Joker in Arkham. Now, I believe there's going to be an interaction between Batman and Jared Leto's Joker, which, admittedly, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't kind of intrigued in seeing some kind of interaction between the two, because that's one thing we've never had. The closest we got to that in 2016 Suicide Squad was the moment where Joker's driving the car and Batman's on top of the car. Okay, there was never actually an interaction between the two. So there's a little part of me that's kind of intrigued in seeing this interaction. Into what context this whole scene is, I have no idea. Just as I said, ordinarily I'd be excited to have the Joker in such a big film like this. But because I think Jared Leto's Joker left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. I myself haven't really met that many people that were actually that keen. Now, I think Jared Leto's a great actor. I'm taking nothing away from Jared Leto. But for me personally, it's just not a Joker that worked. The iteration of the character. I mean, I commend them for giving us a brand new version of this character that had never been seen on the big screen before. They certainly took a big risk with that. But Heath Ledger's Joker was completely different to anything we'd seen in the comics, and that was a risk that paid off. It was a risk that paid off immensely. So, we got the first black and white image. I don't really know what to say. I mean, I'm not really excited. I'm excited for the movie. I'm just not particularly that excited for Jared Leto's Joker. But at the same time, I'm kind of interested in seeing an interaction between him and Batfleck. This actually leads on to my next topic, which is basically, the Snyder Cut has been given an official release date of March the 18th. And HBO Max exclusive, of course, and it's been given an R rating as well, which I wouldn't really expect anything less, in all honesty. Now, tonally speaking, Justice League the 2017 film was a complete contrast to Batman v Superman. Tonally, it was a complete contrast, and I think that's courtesy of Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon's fingerprints were all over that film. They basically tried to make this film as light as they could, I feel. Injecting a lot of forced humour, the vast majority of which just didn't work. It was just, the dialogue was awful. I mean, there were lines in this film that they made me cringe. Okay, there's lines that Batman would... I've been reading Batman for years now, and there's lines in this film that I could never imagine Batman saying. So... Tonally speaking, I think we're going to get a darker film. I mean, obviously, there's going to be little humour in that here and there, but tonally, this is Zack Snyder's vision. This is what I'm looking forward to seeing. Now, I'm not going to say that Snyder Cut is going to transform, the Justice League into one of the greatest films ever made, or even one of the best comic book films ever made. But I think it's kind of safe to say that we're going to get an improvement. We're going to get a vast improvement of what we got in 2017. And at least we're getting a film that isn't a tarnished product. We're getting a film that the director wanted us to see. The director intended us to see this film. Not a film that has had a lot of studio interference and had someone else come in. And Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon are two very different directors. And yeah... So yeah, it's an R rating. It's going to be darker than the 2017 film that we got. I did actually see a clip online the other day of Steppenwolf basically fighting some Amazons. And it actually looked as though he actually decapitated one of the Amazons. I don't know, maybe I was seeing things, but it looked pretty hardcore. It looked really good. I think Steppenwolf himself is obviously, the CG was a bit jarring. The 2017 film, admittedly, the CG, while it was good, it was hardly fantastic. Um, but I'm looking forward to seeing Darkseid in this film. Now, I don't actually know if Darkseid's going to be involved in any actual big fight sequences. I'm not sure, but I'm just happy to see Darkseid in this movie. As to how much screen time he gets, we don't know. I'd expect maybe a handful of scenes. I'm expecting a few scenes at least. But obviously, Darkseid's one of DC's big bads. He was going to be the villain that was showing up in Justice League 2. But obviously, I think that film has been officially scrapped due to Justice League's massive underperformance at the box office. So originally, Darkseid was going to be the big villain. Then they decided Steppenwolf, and yeah. I mean, I don't know, but I'm just really excited for the Snyder Cut. I'm expecting to see, yeah, tonally to be a contrast to the 2017 film. I'm expecting better things from Batfleck, dialogue wise, and I've already seen some snippets that are obviously not in the 2017 film, and they look pretty damn impressive. We actually got a reveal of a black suited Superman just yesterday. Looks awesome. Now, as to what context this scene is, I don't know. At the end of the day, the trailers are there to promote the film, okay? The trailer is there to look good, all right? And yes, it's a damn good trailer. And speaking of which, we're getting a brand new trailer on Sunday. Yeah, Valentine's Day. Yeah, my little Valentine's Day gift this year to my fiance, I believe, is we're going to sit there by candlelight and we're going to watch the Justice League trailer. I'll probably end up watching it in the double digits. I'm really looking forward to this trailer. Yeah, we've had a couple of teasers of it already, and then obviously March the 18th, which really isn't far away. Now, another subject that I want to quickly talk about as well is The Batman, obviously the film that I'm most excited for. This is a film that has been in development now for what feels like eternity. It's been years since this film was first announced. It actually wraps up filming next month. It should actually finish filming next month. Obviously, it's not coming out until March next year, so we've actually got an entire year to wait. But hopefully the wait will be worth it. From what I've seen of it thus far, from the trailer, I'm very impressed. Very, very impressed. And I'm just loving the passion of Matt Reeves. Because Matt Reeves, to me, when I was hearing Matt Reeves talk about this film, I was hearing a guy who has a genuine passion. Not just a guy, oh, this is a paycheck. Do you know what I mean? I want to make this film because I'm going to get a lot of money, blah, blah, and all that. This is a guy that does seem to have a genuine passion for the character of Batman and seems to understand the core of the character really well. So I feel like this film is in very capable hands. I think the casting is great. I think Robert Pattinson is probably going to surprise quite a lot of people. Unfortunately, too many people, as I've said this before, know him as the Twilight guy. I feel like he's an actor that doesn't get enough credit. He certainly proved he's got acting chops. But the film ends filming next month. And then the Flash movie actually goes into film in the following month. At least that's what the plan is. I mean, this is all subject to change. Who knows? But the Flash movie is supposed to go into production, in filming, in April. Which, again, I mean, this film has been in kind of development hell now. I mean, this film was supposed to be out in 2018. This was supposed to be a summer 2018 release. The Flash was coming out, then Aquaman. But of course, this film has gone through God knows how many directors. There's a lot riding on this Flash movie. I can say that now. I think originally this was going to be a more contained Flash film. The plan has changed. I think with Justice League's underperformance, it threw a big spanner in the works for the DCEU. I think for a lot of people, it lost confidence in DC, in that, well, not DC in general, but the DCU, the DC Cinematic Universe. The Flash movie is going to be the reset button. I think that's one of the reasons this film has taken so long. I think they're having to be very, very careful with this film because this is going to essentially reboot the DC universe. So after this movie, I don't believe there's going to be Batfleck again. We're going to get Michael Keaton and Batfleck both in this film. In what capacity, we don't know. We don't know as of yet. It could be, a few scenes. It could be little more than a cameo. At the moment, it's all just speculation. But the Flash movie, I'm really looking forward to it. But ideally, I would have liked a self-contained Flash movie. I think because obviously there are going to be some echoes of Flashpoint Paradox in this movie, and of course, Flashpoint Paradox is one of the biggest, probably the biggest Flash story ever told, actually, and certainly one of the best Flash stories ever told. Tackling a huge storyline like that so early into a cinematic universe is not a wise decision at all. Your actors need to really cement themselves in the roles that they're playing. Do you know what I mean? But from what I know, this isn't going to be a direct Flashpoint adaptation. There's probably going to be elements and echoes of it. But I would have preferably liked a self-contained Flash film before leading into a big film like this. But as I said, the DCU hasn't quite gone according to plan, which is a shame. It hasn't all been doom and gloom. It just hasn't taken off like they would have hoped. So yeah, the Flash movie goes into filming in April. I believe it's scheduled for a 2022 release. Again, could be subject to change. I think basically there's just one more thing I'd like to talk about concerning DC, and this is actually something that's out later this year. No official release date as of yet, but it is 100% happening, and that's The Long Halloween, an animated adaptation of what's widely regarded as being one of the best Batman stories ever told. The Long Halloween is a fantastic, very detective-driven story. It's a murder mystery featuring a great ensemble of Batman's rogues. The Joker's in there. You've got Penguin in there, Mad Hatter, Scarecrow. It's a great story that actually takes place over 1 year. Now, I think for anyone that's a Batman fan, we knew we were going to get this as an animated film at some point. It wasn't a case of if, it was a case of when, and it was officially announced last year. Now, what I'm really excited for is the fact that it's actually going to be a two-part movie, which I feel a storyline like this, The Long Halloween, was a pretty big story. It took place over a year, the space of a year. It's going to be in two parts, and they've announced it's going to be PG-13. I feel a film like Hush that came out in 2019 could have really benefited from this. While Hush was good, it was disappointing at the same time because, fitting a 12-issue series into an 82-minute runtime really isn't easy. You're going to leave a lot out. It was very condensed. I mean, it had its aspects that worked. It certainly wasn't without merit. But I think Hush could have definitely benefited from a two-film treatment, like The Dark Knight Returns, which to me is pretty much the creme de la creme of DC animation. I think Dark Knight Returns is fantastic, one of the best DC animated films out there, and it just does Frank Miller's graphic novel a lot of justice. It pays so much respect to Frank Miller's graphic novel. I mean, his graphic novel is regarded as one of the best Batman stories out there. So I'm really excited for The Long Halloween. Now, it would be great if Kevin Conroy was in there as, Bruce Wayne Batman and Mark Hamill voicing the Joker. I mean, nothing's been confirmed. No voice cast has been mentioned or anything yet, so we'll see. It's not a make or break. It'd just be a nice little thing to have. Like in The Killing Joke, we had Kevin Conroy back, we had Mark Hamill back. Admittedly, The Killing Joke was a big disappointment. Probably the best Joker story ever told. Unfortunately, I don't feel like it quite got the treatment it deserved. Good, but it could have been better than good. the first half an hour of the film was very much kind of padding that just, yeah, it really didn't need the first 25 minutes, half an hour of the film. So The Long Halloween has me very excited. It's a graphic novel I've actually read a few times now. Tim Sale, Joseph Loeb worked on this book. And I'm just hoping this is up there with The Dark Knight Returns. And I'm hoping it's not a missed opportunity like Hush or The Killing Joke. As I say, I don't think either of them two films were terrible, but both of them films didn't quite live up to their source material, whereas The Dark Knight Returns very much did. So yeah, The Long Halloween, the first part I believe is released in the summer sometime, and the second part is released towards the end of the year. I'm going to guess around about probably October, November time. I'm kind of expecting maybe around about 75 minute run time for each one as well, which again would be similar to Dark Knight Returns. Which is, again, getting back to it, it's crazy to think that Hush was a 12-issue series and that was all just crammed into 82 minutes. But never mind. So, yeah, I think that's basically it for today. They were just some of the kind of DC things I wanted to talk about. Somebody did actually ask me recently, in fact. It was kind of a random question. How long do I think Suicide Squad's going to be? Do I think it's going to be R-rated? An R rating, I feel it's a possibility. I always feel like you make a film R-rated, there's not a big difference, but in terms of box office gross, if a film's R-rated, typically there's a little less people that can watch it. But R-rated films have proved to be incredibly successful. I mean, look at Deadpool 2. I think Deadpool 2 is actually the most successful R-rated film of all time. Deadpool, even the first Deadpool, made over $700 million at the box office. With an R-rated films can still go on to make bloody good money. I mean, look at it. The first part in 2017 made $700 billion, making it the highest grossing horror movie of all time. It actually overtook The Exorcist, the classic The Exorcist. So do I think it's likely? I think it could have an R rating. I think it's a 50-50. Obviously, the 2016 film wasn't R rated, but I feel like it could benefit. I feel like if James Gunn really wants to do them comics justice, really does, this will get an R rating, but we'll see. Runtime, very, very hard to say, but your kind of average comic book movie now is typically around about 2 hours 10 to 2 hours 20. That's the average comic book movie length. So I would actually say within that ballpark, I would say probably around about 210, 215. Justice League was a 2 hour film, but we're not going to go into that. I mean, Jesus, having to introduce all of these characters and do all that in 2 hours, no. That's pretty much it for today. Anyway, so thanks to everyone that listened. I'll be back again soon, and take care and speak to you all soon.